stay in this space. We have our questions, Bryan. We're ready to go?
Yep.
All right, let's see if this works. Okay. I don't know if everybody else can hear this. I can hear this. This means the beginning of another episode of Profitable Powerhouse Properties. Yeah, I played that off my phone. That's okay. Welcome to Profitable Powerhouse Properties with the AHI Group. I'm Jonathan Cook, as always. With me, it's my co-host,
Bryan Jenkins. Glad to have everybody today. And we happen to be live on Facebook.
We are streaming a live Facebook event as we speak. And with us today is our friend, Eric Krauss from Rhino. Thank you for joining us today, Eric.
Thanks for having me, guys.
I'm so excited to have you on this episode. I think when we spoke back in March during the COVID quarantine crisis, crackdown, whatever we're going to call it, the beginning of this whole thing, that, you know, I realized what you had to offer, and my opinion has not changed at all since then, which is everyone that is renting a home, is a landlord, is managing a home, should be using Rhino's services all day, every day. And if you're not doing it, you're doing it wrong. And that could be the entire episode. Let's thank everyone for coming out. We're done.
You just make me feel like I've been doing everything wrong for 20 years.
That's right. I'm so sorry, Bryan. Well, I didn't. We ran into them in March, and then we talked about it until we had their business and we were working together.
Absolutely. After a 3-year search for a product and a service line that would work for us, we finally found it. You came across them during.
Yeah, I was on quarantine, man. But Eric, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about Rhino. Just like an overview. We're going to dive down deep into what y'all do, how it works, lots of other questions, and I'm sure people will ask us questions through Facebook by the time they realize what you have to offer. We're going to have more questions than we know what to do with, and that's okay. We're fine with that. So let's just start from the beginning. Eric, welcome to the podcast. Tell us about yourself, when you started with Rhino, and what is Rhino?
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. Name's Eric Krauss. Been at Rhino for about 2 years now. Past work experience, I used to be at Yardi, was on the sales side there, came over to Rhino, and it has been a blast since I started with the team. And to keep it very high level to start, and like Jonathan was saying, we can go into take a deeper dive as we go, but what Rhino is it is a deposit alternative, and so your residents do not have to pay a cash deposit at move-in. They would sign up instead for a really simple insurance policy that is going to cover them for everything that would be covered under a normal cash deposit. Nice thing about these policies, they can be written for any dollar amount. So if they need to be for $500, $1,000, 1 month, 2 months of coverage, that's what the policy would be for. And the perk of doing this is the price is very affordable for your renters. If we just give you one easy example, let's take $1,000 cash deposit. On average for Rhino, that's going to cost about $5 to $7 a month. At that price point, I'm sure you guys are, light bulbs are going off. Like, wow, this is going to give us a wider applicant pool. It's going to increase leasing velocity, increase net operating income. Just to name a few of the benefits that can come of this. But I'll stop there and let you guys ask additional questions, take a deeper dive.
Well, I mean, like exactly what you said there. That's all I needed the first time you and I spoke to be on the hook of like, because you hit like these handful of different points. And I was like, wait, so any price range, it doesn't matter, because everybody that's been in this industry has heard a handful of people promising something similar. Everybody that's been, managing properties, dealing with tenants for any amount of time in the last 5-6 years has run into, well, would this work? Is there an option to do this? Can we do it ourselves? Should we do it ourselves? What are the options out there? And Bryan, I know you and I have spoke about it for at least a year and a half or so, what the options were, and no one can give us that.
Yeah, that type of answer. So, and it's really been longer than that. It was pretty close to 3 years.
Yeah.
From the time we implemented with Rhino, going backwards and looking for a product. Most of the products we looked at actually had qualification requirements, and so in reality, what they were after was they were after your more qualified applicants, your lower risk. And so this is a product, as we'll dive into. The beauty of this product is it makes sense whether you're well qualified and make a great amount of income, or if you're, if you're working class and maybe your credit's not the greatest and you're trying to come up with an alternative to lower your entry cost into one of our rental homes. This product fits that bill very well, and that's why we're excited about it.
Oh my, like, to me, the simplicity of not having the, well, let me back up. So the first couple of vendors that have given us some options. I mean, I'm going to step on some toes here, Brian. I'm not going to name any names, but I'm going to step on some toes here. The basic premise was, oh yeah, we will insure these tenants, but we'll only insure them if they're renting a $2,000 per month property or above. Okay, so that's all only A-class tenants.
Right.
So the ones that don't have trouble coming up with a security deposit, those are the ones you're gonna solve this issue for.
The ones
you're gonna
that don't have claims on.
Yeah, the ones that don't have claims on. You're gonna lower the barrier to entry for someone who's making $6,000 a month. Woohoo! That doesn't help me at all. Like the initial need has always been people that. I mean, the benefits go way higher than just this, but that initial need is to lower that barrier of entry for those otherwise qualified tenants that are getting in these lower income properties, but they just can't scrounge together, or they can't justify spending another full month's rent as a security deposit. And so typically speaking, at least in our markets, what they end up doing is moving to an apartment community that can give them this essential service.
Well, yeah, they can give them this service. They can offer a move-in special with a reduced security deposit, that sort of thing. So, and I was talking about this service yesterday with another property management firm owner, and what we were kind of talking about was, to me, the beauty of it is if you take somebody that's in a cash flow model and they're cash flowing each month and they've got all their budgeting worked out, what this tool does for that person is it allows them just to continue on. It's not that they're having to dip into savings and come up with that first full month of rent, security deposit, utility deposits again, connection fees, etc. What we're trying to do here is we're just trying to allow them, if they're moving out at the end of the month, they move right in with us at the beginning of the month and continue on. And this is a great alternative. And I can say, after looking at the product, after speaking with you guys, signing with you guys, if I were renting, I would do this product all day long. Every time I rent going forward, I would, for sure. So I think that kind of leads us in, Eric, to a couple of different questions we'd like to get started with. But why don't we start with kind of what we just talked about? Who do you guys approve?
Yeah. So you guys touched on a nice point there, and we'll approve anyone you guys are willing to approve to allow to move into your property. So we're not saying just give us your best of the best and we'll write them policies. If you're willing to allow them to move into your property, doesn't matter if they're approved or conditionally approved, we'll give them a quote. Is the simple answer.
And if I remember correctly, you guys offer the monthly option, but you also offer that one time, they can pay a one-time fee, right? To actually forego the monthly option on payment?
Yeah, if they wanted to pay for Rhino for the entire lease term up front, they absolutely can. We actually can give them a slight discount if they do that. What we find is about 90% of the time, folks like the monthly subscription. It works with Spotify, Netflix. They're just very used to it, and it cuts that cost down to, like I mentioned, a few bucks a month, and just resonates a little better with them.
Right.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when you're talking about the benefits of this, I mean, who do you approve? Anybody that we approve. Like, how does that benefit the tenant? In vast different ways. But we have said this in the last, I don't know, handful of consulting phone calls, or signing up new clients that are coming in, and we've been talking about Rhino since we got onboarded. That's all I've talked about. I mean, I'll spend 20 minutes on a phone call talking about how great of a service this is when I'm talking with a new client coming into us. But like, Bryan, I think you were the one that actually came up with the specific scenario that we were talking about, that we're like, here's the perfect reason. Let's put it into practical terms. Let's do this for, like, let's let people understand how big of a deal
so
this is.
we actually created an example based on partnerships with two different companies. So one was Rhino. The second was Simple Bills, if you're familiar with Simple Bills. And for those that don't know what Simple Bills is, Simple Bills is utility management service that we offer. And basically what it allows us to do is it allows us to onboard a property from a property owner and sign it with Simple Bills. Simple Bills has all the utilities connected. So you still got the, the one-time deposit, connection fees on the one time. But basically what it's then allowing us to do is, for the duration of the time the property's under our management umbrella, to run continuous utilities on it. So you notify them when a tenant's moving in, they'll transition it over, the tenant subscribes to the service, and then they have an all-in-one billing capsule, if you will, and they're paying a monthly fee plus their usage. So in lieu of the example we have is, we have a $1,500 a month rental in our Huntsville market.
Yeah.
Moving in on the first day of the month. So typically what that would look like is, you move in, you pay $1,500 for the month, $1,500 security deposit, $300 utility deposit, and then you would pay $350 connection fees for your 3 primary utilities. So you're in it for $3,450
On day one.
Day one.
Day one.
So by rolling out both Rhino and Simple Bills, basically based on the calculation that we ran, you were going to be in it for, I think it was $1,542.
It was under $1,600.
$1,542 between Simple Bills. Obviously the 1 month of rent's still there, but the $42 represents Rhino actually stepping in and replacing the security deposit requirement, and then Simple Bills coming in and taking away, as we talked about, the deposits, the connection fees, all of that. And the beauty with Simple Bills is, after the resident moves out, we notify them it's on notice. It rolls right back seamlessly back to the owner billing, even though it's never changed with utility companies, and that's the key. So you don't have disconnects, you don't have reconnects, you don't have additional deposits, all that to mess with, and it just stays on continuously through the management cycle. So really 2 great products, save a ton of money. And I can tell you, if I were moving into that property, I'd move in using these 2 systems versus traditional any day of the week.
Well, that's what it boils down to. Is it's not just people that can't necessarily afford a security deposit. It doesn't matter if you can afford a security deposit or not. Why would you pay a security deposit when you have Rhino as an option? Why would anybody do that?
Well, the other part of that is, no matter who the operator is on the other end. I mean, I know how we conduct our business and how fair we are, and we prorate damages out, that sort of thing. You're not always going to get that level of an operator on the other end. And quite honestly, if you're trying to do it with an individual owner, if you're looking at it that way, you just run the risk. If you put your security deposit funds out there, you run the risk of allowing that person to hold your deposit. And if they're holding the deposit, what happens is you run the risk of applying your deposit to charges, and not always getting a fair shake when it comes down to that. So at least this way, you're actually allowing Rhino to take care of that security deposit requirement, and then the operator, if they're subscribed with Rhino, then they facilitate the claim. And so it's just a nice process. I know we'll get into a little bit of that, but to your point, I think that it's just advantageous for somebody to use it just anytime you're in a rental situation from a consumer standpoint.
So I agree. And before we jump up to the next level of questions here, I just want to one more time just talk about what that does, not just to the tenant who now they have more money. Now it's easier for them to move in. Let's talk about what that means. If it's easier for a tenant to move into your property, if you have a larger pool of tenants that now not only can move into your property that maybe otherwise wouldn't have been able to, that they are excited to move into your property as a homeowner, or as a landlord, or as whatever else, as a property manager, that means that your days on market are, of course, gonna just fall.
Right.
Just the ability to get someone into that property is just now moving like a well-oiled machine. It's marketed. Hey, well, do I need to scrounge up this for a security deposit? No, here's your solution. Let's sign you up with Rhino. And now, let's sign you up with Rhino. How do we do that? Eric, how does someone sign up to Rhino?
Yeah, great segue there. So
I do what I can, man.
The way it would, it's typically done is it's going to be through an email to that renter. So once they're approved by you guys, they'll receive an email from us. It's going to have all of their information hard coded in there on the address they're applying for, lease dates, rent amount, deposit amount, and they're going to answer a couple background questions. Takes no more than 60 seconds, and then they'll be offered their quote. Quote's going to come in, like we had mentioned, $5, $7, $10, whatever, based on their qualifications. And then they can decide if they want to pay monthly or pay for the full policy up front. And, one thing, just to jump back a second, you had mentioned, the benefits. One I didn't even mention is you guys can absolutely market this in your listings and run this as, exactly right. And, a lot of partners are across the country and saying, hey, find out how you can move in without having to come up with a cash deposit to drive that traffic to the property. People are putting it on their websites, putting it in their listings. There's a lot that can come from that. And, that's just going to be, free clicks for you guys, free leads, basically.
Yeah, and we're actually in the process of redesigning our website. So we were going through one of the stages today with some of our guarantees and that sort of thing. And what we've decided to do is group like our top 5 to 6 services that we offer and partner with companies like yourself. And, one of the things that jumped out at me, we were talking about this the other day, is that Rhino immediately jumped into that top 5.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like we signed up and it was like, this is number 1 or number 2. Yeah. It's got to be up there.
So it's, it's pretty important stuff, but just keeping that in front of people. And I think that, to your point, Eric, I think it's what we did was just develop it into our workflow. And once you'll get that approval email going out, it's got some literature within the attachment about Rhino in it. It's all in our advertising. We even talked today about, we're doing unaccompanied showing. So putting that information at the property.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
So whoever's viewing the property gets it firsthand, can check it out in addition. So it's kind of hitting them from all different angles. And I know from a real estate broker standpoint, I mean, one of the biggest things is our escrow accounts when it comes to audits and making sure everything's up to speed. I know on our corporate housing side of the equation, a few years ago, we did away with security deposit requirements. And one of the things that we were focused on doing with you guys is running through and getting set up and just working out the kinks and then introducing you to that side of the business as a great alternative for them to holding deposits and escrow account across the board. And hopefully one day we'll get to that point as well, because I'd certainly rather deal with your guys' product than handling other people's money and worry about those refunds and dispositions and all that stuff. So
just as an aside, I think it's going to be really fun to listen back to all these podcasts for the past 2 years to see when we first started talking about how we were beginning to work on changing our website. That's just an aside, Brian. I want to see how many episodes we go before our website is done and finished.
It's not going to be that long.
It's not that many. But I'm also excited about how this relates to renewing clients as well. I mean, kind of along that same path that you're going for. Like, right now, when we first start, it's the new tenants. But we've got, 1,200-ish homes. Not all of those are signing up a brand new tenant right this minute.
Right.
A good number of them have tenants.
Yeah, our
what does that look
our
like?
phase 1B rollout, if you will, would be the lease renewal piece of it, and then really implementing the service. And then once we get confirmation of that, being able to process that existing security deposit out to get it off the books, and Christmas in July or August.
I mean, imagine being that tenant and I got to sign this renewal rate, and maybe the renewal is like 2% higher than what you're paying last year. You're okay. I don't want to have to move. It costs so much money to move. Just kind of the point of this. It costs so much money, so I guess I'll pay this extra little, this extra 2 or 3%, and then also on top of that, oh, by the way, we're giving you your security deposit back if you sign up with Rhino. Excuse me, what was that? Do you want all your money back? Do you want your security deposit back? Here, here's your option.
It certainly makes lease renewal a little easier. So that's, you know, a lot of different services we utilize. It's that initial onboarding process is new leases and lease renewals. But this one's a little happier. It's not costing them money. It's actually saving them some money.
This is one of those things that among a lot of our services that creates that like amenities stickiness package for a tenant. This is one of those that like, there's no talking the tenant into, we don't have to go to them and be like, look, you're going to save some money with this, or this is going to help you out in the long run because this is just, hey, do you want some money back? I mean, that's the easiest sell I think anybody's
talking about stickiness and really when you go head to head with firms that operate well and they're best in class operators, your houses are your houses. And your houses are maintained and ready to market.
Sure.
So really, you know, gone are the days of property to property. There's still a small component of that, but it really, with today's renter, you know, we're using that terminology of stickiness, but really it's what is a benefit to your resident? What keeps them coming back renting from you versus going down the street and renting from somebody else?
I think the first time we started talking about that was in the lost, deleted, you know, dispersed episode with Nishant Fadness. We lost an episode. That was my fault probably, but we started talking about these amenities. How do you make, because they take in with the RentPath network, they take in a lot of data from what are tenants looking for.
Right.
And it's that, how do you make a tenant, you know, not just, they don't have to live in your house. I mean, like they don't have to live in this one. They could move to this one, that, the other, because the houses are all the houses. What makes this property management company the one that they want to rent from, regardless of what house it is, regardless of the address? I want to rent an AHI Properties house, or I want to rent whatever property management company is using. And it's those amenities that create that stickiness that makes a tenant not only want to rent from you, but then once they're there, they're happy. They are being treated with respect. They're being treated as humans. They're being treated with like they're not just cattle that we're just pushing and making money off of. And if they leave, we don't care. They're all the same. No, we're trying to keep them happy, because a happier tenant makes a better kept and maintained property, makes a better investment for a investor or homeowner.
Yeah.
So it's all these things just tie in and wrap up so nice. And it's like that Rhino just becomes that, like, not the bow, not the cherry on top. It's not even that.
No, it's
you're
really,
like,
it's a catalyst.
yeah, you're like the blender that puts it together. And it's like, it wouldn't have even been a shake before that. It's just milk and some ice cream, I guess. I don't know how you make a milkshake. I don't make them, you know. Angela.
Well,
so Jonathan,
go ahead.
Yeah, to that point, you know, we are very renter friendly. We're renter advocates in the market, trying to, you know, break down those barriers, get more landlords, you know, up and going on the service. You know, today we're right around 1 million units or apartments across the country are offering Rhino. And obviously that goal is to grow that number and make this, you know, much more accessible to renters everywhere. And if you ever visit our website, www.sayrhino.com, you know, you'll see it's renter faith. It's renter first. So that's who we're here for. You can check to see if an address you're interested in accepts Rhino. And we are getting those requests more and more daily. And it comes back to what you were saying of putting this on your marketing listings, you know, driving traffic that way, because that is something that we're seeing across the board. And you guys had mentioned before, and just to take, you know, jump to a different subject of renewals, this is something that has been a hot button since COVID. So if we take since March, this whole renewal thing of being able to offer Rhino to your current renters at lease renewal, you know, position it as a concession, which no landlord has ever offered residents their cash deposits back in the past.
Exactly.
And saying you can have the cash or you can apply it to next month's rent, you know, either or, that's fine. You guys make that decision. But with retention being such a focus for landlords during these crazy times, you know, that has been something that has, you know, really flourished for us. And, you know, by all means, it's great. You know, we love it. Landlords love it. Renters love it. And that's the goal in the end for us.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Like there's just not somebody that I can't imagine not wanting to sign up with it. But so, I mean, that wasn't even part. I mean, it just blows my mind every time I think about it. But I do want to talk, because to get someone to be able to sign their tenants up to it, to get their renewals up to it. If they're not adding properties and they don't have a ton of vacancies, this is still a good option for you to get your renewals done through that.
Yep.
So I think one of the things that our listeners, whether they be individual property owners or other property managers that might be watching this live or listening to the podcast later, I want to talk about y'all's onboarding process, because that's always the big barrier to entry, not for the tenant. Let's talk about the barrier to entry now for your property manager or your property owner that's gonna actually do this, because every new system, Brian, how many systems do we like to roll out per quarter? 1, 2, maybe
three per
three
quarter.
tops.
This quarter, unfortunately, we're doing 4. So
Well,
stretch out a
but this
little
is
bit.
the reason
This is
why.
one of them. This was something we hadn't actually anticipated.
Exactly, and
So-
because every time you have to onboard something, it's we got to plan for this for months. Getting the systems in place. Everybody's got to be trained on it. Everybody's got to know how to do. Which buttons do you have to hit? How do you do this? With Rhino, when I was like, no, we've got to do this, and you're like, yeah, we've got to do this. Once we signed up, we're like, all right, we're ready for the onboarding process, and they're like, here you go.
Well, and
You're onboarded.
for us to say it was easy onboarding, and we're a little more complicated just because we have five brick and mortar locations with 5 different teams. So it's not that you're all in one office location. You come up with your procedures on implementation and then roll it straight out. But you're trying to do that with training everyone across multiple platforms. And I will say, hands down, I would say they're in the top 2. Rhino has been in the top 2 of ease of implementation.
Absolutely.
Speed and ease.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, it really just amazed me how quickly we could get up and running with you guys. So,
well, your team, first of all, your team was so responsive in the initial, like, okay, so what all do we need to do? And they're like, give us your list of properties, give us some addresses. Here you go. Now what else do you need to do? Here's the marketing. Go play.
yeah.
Rent houses.
Yeah, guys, we have, our onboarding team, you guys saw it firsthand. Once we get that initial information just to get you guys set up in our system, there's a misconception out there, and I know it from past, work experience, that I've seen onboardings take months. I've seen, folks pulling out their hair, and you guys, I'm sure, have been through that. Everyone who's listening, I'm sure, has been through those onboardings. One thing we're trying to say is we can do this in 2 to 3 days. Typically it probably took you guys 5 to 7, 10 days, maybe, that's standard. And a lot of that is just finding a time that works for our partner success team to sit down with you guys and your leasing agents and make sure everyone's trained and comfortable. And, but it's really a simple
That's exactly
process.
how it
We're
went,
not, yeah, exactly right. And, our partner success team is great. They're flexible. They'll work around your schedules. And, I've been on some of those calls, and partners really feel comfortable. And, it's hard to explain that by email before we start, but it's always nice afterwards, 7 to 10 days later, and you're like, wow, that was easy. You were telling me that, but I've been told that 10 times before, and that's not the case. So it is good to hear that. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Well, I think everybody on our team said it at least at once, like, so we're onboarded.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. What else do I need to do? Nothing. We're done.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
it's
it.
really just throw the switch.
It was just,
and
go. We're on.
So, but it's,
Hey, put this in all the marketing now.
to your point, I
Okay.
think anybody that's listening to us that's in property management and does what we do, because there are some things that onboarding, it's like one of the ones for this quarter is going to extend into the next quarter just because it's so complex. It's an AI technology-based piece. And we're going to be light years ahead once it's fully up and operational. But really what we're trying to do is get it
is
fully
micro,
functional
man.
in our primary market, work out all the kinks, and then roll it out across the entire platform.
And it is some micro changes. It'd be like, all right, we'll change that wording because I think more people are going to say this than that.
Yeah.
It is some really nitty gritty implementation stuff. It's cute. It's going to be fun, but we're
But to my
excited about
point
it.
is that everybody that's on your side of the equation, if you're a provider and you're working with property managers, it's usually the property management firms, and try to do something in the summer. We're working 100 plus miles an hour all the time, and really just trying to get these systems, because we know how important they are. We know how excited we are to get them onboarded. But saying all that, still back to the point. And really it was 10 to 14 days, but that was on us. It could have been a week.
It definitely was on us.
Yeah. We leave it on you guys to decide what that how long that's going to be. We've had
Yeah.
partners say, Eric, we need you guys up in 2 to 3 days. Sure. If we can have your teams, if you make them available, we'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like it always comes back down to, Bryan, we've had this conversation as long as I've been here. There's always an argument between business development and operations that we butt heads. And I mean, I'm our biz dev guy. And so from like March, when I talked to you, Eric, I was like, well, we're doing this. I'm signing up every property owner from now till anywhere, letting them know we're trying to do this new thing. And then like, as soon as Bryan's like, yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to be doing this new thing. And it's just, you go and sell on it. And the ops guys are like, I hear you talking about this. I don't know how long is it going to take us to do it. And then it was like, we're on, done.
Yeah, March was,
Yep.
By default, March was figure out COVID operations and how to keep everybody employed. That was number one.
That was rough.
And what's going to happen with delinquency and all this other stuff. So
I was down to a tiny little 11-inch screen monitor at the house, sitting in my 11-year-old's art desk because my wife had the pretty office desk because she's busy, I guess. She needs files. All you need is a screen and a keyboard. You go play in the kids' room, and I'm like sitting there. March was rough, man.
Yeah, I think it's taught all of us a lot of different things. But I know when I was at home for a brief period, the one thing that struck me is, my wife and I are using the same printer. We're on an air printer, and I'm working in the office. She's working in the kitchen. And for 2 weeks, I printed one document because I had to have a wet signature. And while I'm at the office, I've got stacks of paper everywhere. It's
I
like,
can hear it constantly.
how come? But my wife was printing everything off. She was just wearing the printer out and changing out ink cartridges, etc. So I'm like, I really need to get back to that. I need to get back to everything's cloud based, and we can store stuff anywhere we want it. Electronic signatures, it's all crazy. I'm like, I have no idea why I feel like I have the needing to print things out while I'm at.
I like that you print out emails that you send to me and send me the email and then sit the email on my chair. That's my favorite.
It's just another point of emphasis.
I know.
But that's okay. So
I get it when it's an important email, but there's times that you send me funny emails. Did you see this? Did you see this?
Yes.
Yes, I did. That was very funny.
But I think Eric, to a point that you alluded to earlier, I mean, with COVID and everything going on, and right now with CARES Act having ended in the end of July, this is a great opportunity, a great time to roll this product out, particularly on those lease renewals. Either give that rent concession or the refund of the deposit back.
Yeah.
I mean, you're really helping some folks out right now.
And
Yeah.
Go
And
ahead.
you guys kind of touched on it there. So COVID, we, as a sales team, when we would talk to folks during March, April, May, we really saw both ends of the spectrum. It was folks, hey, we don't have the time, we're stretched too thin. Other folks, if they were tasked with finding creative ways to help renters and get out ahead of this, those folks, we had some of our best months. March, April, May have been our best months to date because of that, because folks really were like, this is going to be a game changer for us. We are understanding that the markets are going to be very different, during and after this. And let's get a solution set up that's going to take minimal implementation and, really will benefit us and help with leasing velocity and all of that good stuff, on the end of that, once it's fully set up.
Oh gosh, yeah. I want to talk about the claims, Eric.
Yeah.
We've gotten to, we now, everyone understands why they should sign up for this. I mean, if you've listened to this far into this podcast or watched this far into this live Facebook event, and you aren't sold on signing up for Rhino already, then you've got it on mute and you're in the kitchen, you're pedaling around, not paying any attention. But so to set everyone up for once they sign up for Rhino anyways, let's explain to them how claims work. We haven't had any claims yet. I mean, we're still too early in it to, I would imagine, see that. But I know I have had at least 2 questions about the claims, and it was really easy answered from my standpoint to the homeowner when they're like, well, what do I need to worry about? So I don't have a security deposit on my house? No, you do. Okay. Is that it? Yep. Oh, that's from a business development standpoint. That was my line, man. I was out. They were excited. So go ahead and, for the people actually in it doing the operations portion of it, explain how the actual claims work.
Yeah. So First thing just to remember is Rhino is the equivalent to a cash deposit. So what I mean by that is we're covering loss of rent, damages, fees, anything that you'd normally be able to retain from a deposit. You're going to simply file a claim with Rhino and we'll pay you for that. We'll even take it to a step farther. So you can actually file claims with us mid-lease. So if somebody doesn't pay August rent or September rent, after 10 days, you could potentially file a claim with us and we'll give you that money. Now, when it comes to filing a claim, we're going to ask for one piece of evidence, snapshot of a rent ledger, invoice for damages, pictures of damage, anything like that would work. And then you just simply tell us how you want to be paid. ACH or check are your two options. Within 2 days of filing that claim, you're going to have confirmation that the claim's been approved and then that your money's on the way. So 3-4 days max is what it would take for you guys, full claim cycle. So you're still getting your money really fast. And we're actually giving you a little bit more flexibility with filing claims, immediate, during when the loss actually occurs or waiting to move out. And at move out, you have 60 days after move out. Yeah. So, every state's different, but you actually we're giving you up to 60 days to file a claim after move out.
That's like the mid-lease damage claim or the mid-lease rent claim.
Yep.
I'm sure that someone told me about that but I was so head in the clouds excited. I completely flew past that one. That's awesome.
So how does that work though? If you had a mid-lease claim and you submitted that claim and then you guys paid it out, then you're left unprotected for the remainder? Or is there a way to make that tenant then resubscribe? How does that work?
Yeah, so while we make this an option, it's something that's on a partner by partner basis. So say, let's take the example of approved with conditions renter, you guys request 2 months of coverage. They don't pay August rent, you file a claim with us, we give you August rent, you still have 1 month left for a loss of rent claim again or damages.
Okay.
So, that would be the typical way of using it because you have such flexibility with setting the coverage amount, custom to that renter's needs or what you guys need to allow that renter to move in. Where if you have a larger than 1 month, that would absolutely make sense for you. In the case where it would be under 1 month of coverage or 1 month, it's really up to you. You can file the claim then and exhaust that amount. And then you would be covered for, you would have to go to the renter for anything above and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can wait till their end move out. Every state's different with, if you have a renter that's not paying, it may not be in your best interest to do that because if you were ever going to try to go through the eviction proceedings, you would want to show that they haven't been paying.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That could muddy those legal waters up just a bit.
Absolutely. But back to the point of our ability or anyone partnering with Rhino's ability to set the terms per tenant application process. It gives you from my standpoint, and Bryan, please feel free to correct me if I'm saying something wrong here, but it seems as though you would be able to set a base criteria, but then also set if the criteria is not met in this fashion, we can go ahead and at that point have them already structured out so that we're still all following all of our fair housing laws. We're still making sure that we're doing everything that we're supposed to do, but still have that set up for, okay, well, in this situation, this is how that is handled across the board. It doesn't matter, who you are, what property you're in, how you're going to do this. This is the way that that's going to be handled. And so being able to set that, on the onset,
you're proceduralizing it versus you're taking away the case by case.
Absolutely, you are.
So
That's the point.
Conditional acceptance or approval needs to step to this tier, and that's how we set up. So that's to your point. I think anybody that's approved straight up is much lower risk, and
Sure.
Our particular practice is we're going to put them at the 1 month level as traditional, but the conditional goes up to 2.
Yeah.
So that gives us plenty of coverage.
And to folks that may not charge that 1 month, because we know, it's usually pretty regional. And so, we talk to, let's take Texas, for example, properties, $500, $300, that's a standard deposit. A lot of what those operators are doing when they roll out Rhino, they're saying, I've been charging $300, $500 because that's what it's acceptable in my area, but I don't like it. You know, we have bad debt because of that. So when they roll out Rhino, they're pushing it to 1 month or $1,000, and you know, they're giving the residents this very affordable option, and now they've removed all that potential bad debt. So just another way to think about it. Again, that's up to the, you know, each individual partner, and we leave that up to you. But that's what a lot of folks do that have lower deposits today.
So we talked a little bit about on the front end, kind of what we were looking for prior to finding you guys. And if you had to explain to us, Eric, kind of what the difference between Rhino and some of the other alternatives on the market are, what would you say, what makes you guys stand out? What makes you different?
Yeah, good question. And you guys, you started off, you sold this for me, but
sorry, I'm so excited.
Yeah, no, the one major thing that you guys mentioned is we'll write a policy for anyone. We've had a lot of folks that have used competitors and have started with us, or then here and talk to us, and they, like yourselves, are really surprised that, you know, this isn't set for, you know, just that A-class properties for your approved renters. You know, if there's a certain credit score, certain, you know, we won't write them a policy, and that's just going to create a hiccup in your system and just going to make people upset that you're offering them services they go through and they can't end up using. With Rhino, you know, our pricing is custom to that renter and their qualifications. So that gives us a leg up on that, where we can write a policy for everyone. At the same time, we are hands down the most affordable on the market. Our prices can be as low as $4 for $1,000 in coverage. And when you offer that, you know, when it comes down, you know, there's a lot of options out there, and fundamentally they're all, you know, securing the security deposit. However, when it comes down to price and what the renters are going to use and what adoption rates are, you know, folks want to go with the most affordable option if they're all doing the same thing in the end.
Right.
We take it a step further, and like we just talked about, you know, we've made the claims process really quick and really simple. You know, other companies are making you wait 30 days when there's a loss before you can file the claim. So there's a claim, you go to the resident, you try to get them to pay. If they didn't pay rent for August, I highly doubt they're going to pay rent, you know, middle of August. And then you would be able to file a claim 30 days later. The way we see it is we need to work as closely as possible to a cash deposit. So when there is that loss at the end of move out and you guys see it, get that money to you in 4 days. You know, that's the way we see it. And that, you know, that's really what's, you know, held us, you know, why we believe, you know, and we see that partners are gravitating towards us when they do their homework and look at all the options.
I mean,
we said right off the get-go, it's no brainer.
I mean, I think the reality is, I mean, we could keep reiterating the same points that everybody should be using this, because they should. But I want to go ahead and let's talk about final thoughts, because this is about that time. This is when we need to start talking about how. And I'm going to start first, Brian. I'm sorry. I'm leapfrogging you, man.
It's your turn.
It is my turn. It is my turn, actually. So as far as my final thoughts on Rhino, I started it at the beginning. The ease of onboarding this process, the ease of implementing this into a individual landlord's, you know, criteria. If you have 20 homes that you're managing yourself, you can do this. If you're a property manager of any size, whether you have apartments or single family rentals, you should be doing this. Apartment complexes do something similar to this, you know, occasionally anyway. So if you
I was going to say, I think from listening to Eric, that's where you guys got your start, right? Multifamily, and now you're crossing over. So.
And so the single family, you know, space, that's always been the difference as well. If I have enough money to, you know, get a security deposit on a house, I'll move into a house. But up until then, my best option is this same price point, but it's this apartment that's smaller, more cramped, you know, blah, 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 blah.
So it's an equalizer.
It's an equalizer. And this right here is where you go, no. You get the same amenities because now, you know, a single family rental property management company now feels the same way as, you know, a leasing office in an apartment building in that way. No, we'll make sure that this works for you. Come on in, let's do this. Even though, I mean, this is so simple and easy for everyone to use, from the property manager to the owner, to the tenant, to the operations team setting everything up. It's so easy that if you're not doing it, I don't even know what else to tell you. Like, you're doing it wrong.
We
Yep.
were doing it wrong.
We were doing it wrong, Brian.
We were doing it wrong.
We were.
So Eric, I'm going to let you go next because I want to wrap up. I'm going to ask you a couple last minute questions before we wrap up. But if you can go ahead and give us your final thoughts.
Yeah, and guys, I appreciate you having me on today. This has been great. And one thing I wanted to touch on that we didn't, before is when renters are seeing this price point and you're giving them this option, to them, this comes off as an amenity. This is something that you're making available to them to take advantage of. Comes at no cost to you. And, the setup is 5 to 7 days. You guys can be up and running, offering Rhino. And then when it comes to the actual renters, when they're seeing this, we're finding 4 out of 5 renters are going with Rhino. So you're still giving them the option to pay that cash deposit if they want. And what we're saying, and this is pre-COVID, post-COVID, renters still have always wanted to hold on to their cash if possible. They would rather have it in their bank account. They would rather do with it what they want rather than sitting in a escrow account or deposit account. So, when you give them that option, they're appreciating that. We hear these testimonials from renters all the time saying, thanks so much. You made this available to me, or you made it so easy for me to move, and, at the same time, we're hearing that from the landlords as well. We don't have to deal with deposits. We don't have renters asking us, when am I getting my cash deposit back? All of that's eliminated with this. So the way we see it is, it's a win for everyone. So I appreciate you really getting that message out to everyone, because that's that's my goal on a daily basis.
So why don't you give us that website one more time, just in case somebody wants to actually check you guys out online?
Sure. And website's www.sayrhino.com.
Okay.
And if you want to go a step further, my personal email is Eric, ERIC, @sayrhino.com. So feel free to reach out to me. Happy to go, dive deeper, answer additional questions, show you a demo. All of those are possible.
Yeah. So my wrap up would be we've talked about how great the service is, how it's a no-brainer as an operator. It's really a game changer and an equalizer on many fronts. But we've always looked for ways where we can reduce that barrier to entry, especially for working class folks, and particularly during COVID. I think we've had a number of people that are renting from us have been furloughed from their jobs, have lost employment or have reduced hours, that sort of thing. So it's not a huge number, but for all those people, we've always tried to help through a variety of different ways. But this is certainly one of those we're proud to partner with you guys on, and we appreciate you getting on today. A couple things that I had. So the first question would be, as a consumer, about how long does it take you, once you get that link, how long does it take you to sign up?
Under 60 seconds. You open up the email, all that information is going to be pre-populated on the address you're applying for, rent amount, deposit amount, lease dates. And then all we need from you is a few background questions, which is going to end up going through an algorithm and generate a quote for you. So 60 seconds from opening up the email to putting in your credit card information if you decide to move forward.
Yeah, and then once you, as a consumer, once you select it, we get an email on the property management side telling us, hey, you guys are covering it, and we go from there. So that's pretty easy. So the last question I have, what if a renter attempts to cancel their policy mid-lease? How does that work?
Yeah, and we get asked that question a lot, so it's a great question, and it's one I always want to cover. Everyone has this taste in their mouth from renters insurance, where if you ever require that renters come and prove that they have it at move-in, they can cancel it a couple months later, and you have no way of knowing that. With Rhino, this is a 3-party agreement between the renter, the landlord, and us. So when a renter goes to cancel with us, we go to you to confirm that they haven't moved in or they've moved out or whatever that might be before we go ahead and cancel the policy. So there's no chance of them canceling a policy and you guys find out later that you don't have coverage.
Awesome. Awesome. I like to hear that.
That's a good way to end. Man. That's
so
really good.
Again, welcome to the SFR space. I know you guys are working hard at getting in, and looking forward to it. We're going to keep spreading your good word and pushing this episode out as much as we possibly can to not only educate our potential clients, but other property managers across the country that we know.
Well, that's the thing is, like, normally the audience tends to be a smattering of property managers, but mostly we gear ourselves toward the investor. And we like this to be an education focused piece so that we can tell our investors, and hello investors that are listening to this because I've emailed it to you. Hi, how you doing? But I mean, normally, like, yeah, I like to send these out. Like if somebody's like, well, how does this service work? I've done an episode on it. Listen to this. Here's the podcast, like whatever. But like, I mean, I know a lot of our buddies that don't listen to our podcast. Hey, Trent, listen.
Yeah. Listen to this.
Hey, guys, listen. Do this. Like, I just want to call them all out and be like, I'm going to directly email this to you. I'm going to email all of our friends. Like, why aren't you doing this already? And I mean, I've got like a list in my head of people that I'm just going to be sending this episode out once it's published, you know, in the podcast episode. Like, I'm sorry that y'all didn't join us on the Facebook Live event and get signed up before I sent this to you, but you've been doing it wrong.
Yeah, but we'll push it out.
Yep.
We'll continue to push it out. In the meantime, if you listen to this, you have questions, you want to reach Jonathan or myself, you can shoot us an email at podcast@ahiproperties.com. Again, that's podcast@ahiproperties.com.
And until next time.
Yeah, Eric, we appreciate you very much, man. We appreciate you making time for us today. And Hannah's
Thanks for having me on, guys.
in the
Absolutely.
background. And Hannah, thank you for coordinating everything. We appreciate
That's
it. Until next time, keep buying, keep learning, and keep earning.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.